Now, another interesting thing to notice is that the price of gasoline follows the price of oil pretty closely. And the price of oil is determined in the world market. So if people say that the oil companies are just gouging us, they're making an excessive profit, what I say is, well, the data doesn't seem to support that. It supports the idea that the people who are buying the oil are bidding up the price. It looks like I need an update here. Let's see. And ever since about 2004, which is when the National Geographic article came out, the price of both oil and gasoline have been going upwards. That's the trend. Now, it looks as if the price of gasoline has been decoupled from the price of oil fairly recently. If this pattern had followed, where they were following each other fairly closely to the present time, then we'd now be paying $5 for a gallon of gas. But for some reason, the prices have become decoupled recently, and I don't know why that is. That's just what the graphs indicate. Now, this, I claim, is just what you'd expect as we approach peak oil. As we approach it, things occur gradually over a time scale of years, but as we approach it and world oil production starts to level off, while demand continues to grow, then the price gets bid up. And that's what the graph shows. And then I found this article in Time magazine called "Have We Peaked?" with a graph which shows that, in fact, if you look at world oil production, this is millions of barrels a day plotted every month, then world oil production has in fact remained steady since about the first of 2005. So as I say, the data seems to indicate that we're there at peak oil. So major problem for all the economies of the world, and the question is, what do we do about it? Is there anything we can do? Well, people are concerned about the problem. Some people are, and some cities have taken action. Probably the city that's been the most out in front is Portland, Oregon. The city council commissioned a peak oil task force a while ago, and just recently they came out with their report earlier this year with some recommendations. So the idea is that now the world is entering an era where the price of oil is not going to be cheap as it has been in the past. We don't anticipate that demand will fall off because economies are still growing. So the only way to accommodate the plateauing in oil supply is for the price to rise. So oil is going to be expensive from here on out. So Portland said, well, let's make a goal of reducing our oil and natural gas consumption by 50% over 25 years. Take the long run. This isn't a problem that can be solved in a year or so. You just have to take it one step at a time and move towards making a city or a region where the use of, there's just less use of oil. They had 4 committees that looked at various aspects of the problems and made their separate recommendations. And I've listed what I consider the most important recommendation of each one of the committees, just to make it easy to think about. And I heard a talk by a fellow from the Oregon Department of Energy who was loaned to Portland for the purposes of working on the task force. And he said, when I heard him in Minneapolis in January, the first thing you have to do is look at land use. If you don't consider land use, then you might as well forget about it. Specifically, support land use patterns that reduce transportation needs. Now, this is, what's the population of Kasson? It's maybe,
55.
How much?
About 5,500.
5,500.
Somewhere in there.
So this is more of a problem in bigger cities like Portland, but what land use means is that arrange development so that you have walkable communities, so that you can walk from your home to get your groceries, you can walk from your home to the pharmacy, and you don't need to use your car every time you need to get something. So land use. Economy, identify and promote sustainable business opportunities. Food and agriculture, preserve farmland, expand local food production and processing so you don't have to pay for the cost of transporting the food when the price of oil goes up. And a final category I like is they say it's the there are going to be vulnerable populations when the price of oil goes up, so redesign the safety net to protect the vulnerable and marginalized populations. And there's a complete list of their recommendations. This is available on the web, and it's a good document to read. There are all kinds of recommendations in it. Other cities are taking action. You don't hear too much about them in the news, and I'm not sure why. But this is, I don't think it's even a complete list. This is a list of some cities that have formed task forces or are looking into how they as cities can reduce their oil and natural gas consumption. Some big cities like San Francisco and some smaller cities like Willits, California. And there is a bill before the Minnesota legislature this year, sponsored by Bill Hilty in the House File number 995, that requests the governor to take action to prepare a plan of response and preparation to meet the challenges of peak oil. So things are happening. But I know from experience that these folks like to hear from their from citizens in the state, encourage them to take these environmental actions. So a good thing to do would just be to get on the phone or send an email to Bill Hilty and say, I support what you're doing with the peak oil resolution. And there are things that people can do, so I list them here. If the price of oil and gasoline is going to go up, then just figure out a way to reduce your gasoline. Get a high mileage car the next time you get a car. Arrange your trips so you don't take as many trips. Encourage your city to form a peak oil task force. Support Representative Hilty's bill. And encourage action by Congress. And again, there's a peak oil caucus in Congress that's led by Roscoe Bartlett, who's a Republican from Maryland, and Udall, I forget his first name, who's a Democrat from New Mexico. They're the leaders of the caucus, and they're working on the problem in Congress, something you don't hear about that, but this is going on as well. I think that's it for the first part of my talk.
Could I ask you some questions on that?
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about a barrel of oil, how much gasoline do you get out of a barrel of oil?
About 42 gallons, something like that.
And there's 55-gallon barrel, basically. Is that how they measure it?
Well, they say a barrel is 42 gallons.
Oh.
I don't know if that's whether they start out with 55 gallons and the refining process brings it down to 42 or not. I don't know. But 42 gallons for a barrel.
And there's some energy in that process that's required to do that. Isn't there, to get oil to gasoline?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. There's energy in the refining process.